My father slid the papers across the table like he was passing the gravy boat at Thanksgiving. "Sign here," he said. "And we can all move forward as a family." The conference room on the 14th floor of Voss Technologies smelled like fresh carpet and old money. Floor-to-ceiling windows looked out over Boston Harbor, the kind of view that was supposed to make you feel small and grateful. I had spent 8 years in a basement lab with fluorescent lights that hummed and a coffee maker that tasted like burnt plastic. And this was the first time my father had ever invited me to a meeting on this floor. Marcus was at the head of the table, leaning back in the leather chair like he'd been born in it. "Our CEO. Our golden boy." He gave me a smile that was supposed to be warm and came out looking like a funeral director's. "Elena, we all know how hard you've worked. Nobody's saying you didn't contribute. Then why am I signing away my patent?" I said. My mother, Diane, reached across the table and put her hand over mine. Her nails were manicured, her bracelet was the one Marcus had bought her for Mother's Day, and her voice was the same soft, reasonable tone she'd used my entire life whenever I was about to cause a scene. "Sweetheart, it's not signing anything away. It's consolidating. The company is the family. The family is the company. You've always known that." I looked at the papers. Patent assignment and release. Non-compete agreement. General release of claims. The language was clean and surgical. The kind of thing lawyers charge $800 an hour to write so that by the time you reach the bottom you've agreed to disappear quietly and thank them for the privilege. "The Meridian deal closes in 10 days, my father said. He didn't look at me. He was watching the harbor, like the boats were more interesting than the daughter who'd built the asset they were selling. $80 billion. That's not the kind of number you jeopardize because someone's feelings are hurt. Someone's feelings, I repeated. Marcus leaned forward. "Elena, be reasonable. The patent was filed while you were working for the company. It's company property." "I filed it 6 years ago," I said. "I wasn't employed by the company 6 years ago. I was a grad student living on ramen and sleep deprivation, and I walked into Dad's office with a prototype and asked if he wanted to partner." My father finally turned to look at me. His face had that particular expression, the one where he was already deciding how to punish you for making him be the bad guy. "And I gave you a lab. I gave you a title. I gave you a salary. You think that prototype becomes an $80 billion product without this company? Without Marcus's relationships? Without my name behind it?" The room went quiet. Somewhere down the hall, a printer hummed. Marcus's assistant, a kid named Tyler who looked like he'd graduated college last Tuesday, was pretending to take notes so hard his pen was shaking. I thought about the lab. The basement. The nights I'd slept on the couch because the test cycle ran for 14 hours and I couldn't leave. The Christmas I'd missed because the thermal management system was failing and Marcus was in Aspen with his girlfriend. The 3 times I'd gone to my father with concerns about the prototype's safety margin. And the 3 times he'd told me to let Marcus handle the business side. "I'm not signing," I said. My mother's hand tightened on mine. "Elena Marie Voss, don't do this. Not today. Your father's blood pressure, Mom." I pulled my hand away. "Don't." Marcus stood up. He buttoned his jacket, the gesture automatic, the kind of thing he'd practiced in mirrors. "I think we're done here. Elena, you can take the weekend to think about it. But Monday morning, those papers get signed, or we find another way." "Another way," I said. He didn't answer. He walked out, and my father followed, and my mother gave me a look that was half disappointment and half fear. And then she left too. Tyler the assistant lingered for half a second, mumbled something about needing to make copies, and disappeared. I sat alone in the 14th floor conference room with the harbor view and the papers that were supposed to erase me. The pen was still where my father had set it down, black and heavy and waiting. I didn't touch it. I took the elevator down to the basement. My badge still worked. They hadn't thought to revoke it yet, or maybe they thought I wouldn't have the stomach to come down here after what had just happened. The lab smelled like solder and ozone and the particular chemical tang of electrolyte solution that had soaked into the cinder block walls over 8 years. My desk was in the back corner, under a poster of Nikola Tesla that Marcus had given me as a joke when I first moved in. "Your people," he'd said, and laughed like it was the funniest thing anyone had ever said. I opened the bottom drawer. Under a stack of old lab notebooks and a dead laptop and a half-eaten granola bar from God knows when, there was a manila folder. I pulled it out and opened it on the desk. The patent certificate. United States Patent and Trademark Office. Inventor, Elena Marie Voss. Filing date, March 14th. 8 months before I'd ever signed an employment contract with Voss Technologies, the paper was warm from sitting in the drawer, or maybe that was my hands. I ran my thumb over the Inventor line, over my name, the name my parents had given me, and then spent 34 years treating like an afterthought. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out. Marcus. The text was short, the way he always wrote when he was trying to sound reasonable and was actually furious. "We need to talk about Monday. Don't make this harder than it has to be." I stared at the message. Then I looked at the patent certificate. Then I looked at the message again. Somewhere above me, on the 14th floor, my family was probably already drafting the press release. Marcus Voss, visionary CEO. Harold Voss, founding patriarch. The Voss family, American innovation at its finest. No mention of the basement. No mention of the girl who'd slept on the couch. No mention of the name on the piece of paper in my hands that said none of this existed without her. I put the patent certificate back in the folder, closed the drawer, and picked up my phone. I didn't text Marcus back. I opened a new message and typed one name. Nora. Then I hit send. Nora texted back within 30 seconds. My office. Monday, 10 a.m. Bring everything. That was Saturday. I had 48 hours before a lawyer could tell me if I was ruining my life or finally starting it. I spent the first 12 pretending I could fix this without one. I texted Marcus at 9 Saturday night. Can we talk? Just us. No dad, no lawyers. He replied at 9:02. Blue Bottle on Newberry. Tomorrow, 10. It was our spot from college, where he'd buy me oat milk lattes and pitch startup ideas, and I'd go back to my dorm and build the thing he'd just described. Maybe I thought nostalgia would make him human. He was already there, sunglasses on even though it was overcast. He hugged me, and it lasted exactly long enough for a stranger to photograph it and call it a loving brother-sister moment. You look tired, he said. I've been tired for 8 years. I said. The oat milk latte he'd ordered sat between us, steaming. I didn't touch it. Marcus, did you know? About the papers. About what Dad was planning. He took off his sunglasses. His eyes were the same hazel as mine, and for half a second I thought I saw something that wasn't calculation. Of course I knew, he said. I'm the CEO. I helped draft them. The latte cooled. A couple at the next table laughed. The world kept turning like my brother hadn't just told me he'd spent months building the trap they'd set for me. Why? I said. Because it's business, he said, and he sounded like he believed it. Meridian isn't buying a family, they're buying an asset, and that asset needs a clean chain of title. If they find out the core patent is in your name and you're not on board, the deal falls apart. $80 billion. That's not a number you let pride get in the way of. Pride, I said. Yes, pride. You've always needed everyone to know you built it. Like credit matters. It doesn't. What matters is the company succeeds and we all walk away wealthy enough our kids never work. You helped draft papers to take my patent away, I said, and you're calling me proud? I'm not taking anything. You're getting a payout. A consulting role. I'm getting disappeared, I said. He ran a hand through his hair. I knew this would happen. I told Dad you'd make it personal. I told him you couldn't see past your own ego. He stood and put his sunglasses back on. Until Monday, Elena. Sign the papers, or Dad handles it his way. And you don't want that. He walked out. The latte sat untouched, and I realized I'd been clenching my jaw so hard it ached. Monday morning. I found out what Dad's way meant. I pulled into the Voss Technologies parking garage at 7:45. Same as every weekday for 8 years. I swiped my badge at the elevator. Red. Access denied. I swiped again. Red again. Ray, the security guard who'd known me since grad school, walked over looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Elena. I'm sorry. Orders this morning. Harold said your access is suspended pending review. I'm supposed to escort you out. Review of what? I said. I don't know. I just follow orders. I stood there with my badge in my hand, thinking about 8 years of mornings in this garage, every crack in the concrete. Tell my father, I said, and my voice was steady in a way that surprised me. If he wants me gone, he can come down and tell me himself. 5 minutes later, his car pulled in. He got out in a tailored suit with the expression of a man inconvenienced by something beneath him. Elena, this is childish. You revoked my access. Your role is being restructured. Administrative leave with pay. You should be thanking me. I'm giving you space to think clearly. Without my lab. Without my research. Without the equipment I need. Your job, he said, and it sounded like a joke, is to sign those papers. Everything else is temporary. He drove away. I drove to Nora's office. Her firm was on the 32nd floor of a financial district tower, all glass and steel and expensive quiet. She met me in the lobby with coffee and a look that said we were going to war. I handed her the patent certificate, my employment contract, the papers they'd wanted me to sign, and a thumb drive with every digitized lab notebook. She flipped through them while I told her everything, the meeting, the coffee shop, the parking garage, the 8 years. When I finished, she was quiet a long time. Elena, this patent is ironclad. You filed it 8 months before your employment start date. The notebooks predate the company. No work for hire argument survives 10 minutes in front of a judge. Something loosened in my chest that I hadn't known was tight. Your family knows this, she said. That's why they need you to sign. They can't take it. They can only get you to give it away. She set the papers down. I send a letter asserting your rights. We make clear any attempt to transfer this patent without your consent means litigation. Then we wait. Wait for what? For them to panic, Nora said. And for the other side to notice. I left at 3 and walked to the common. I sat on a bench watching kids chase pigeons, trying to remember what it felt like to not be at war with my own family. My phone buzzed. I expected Marcus, my mother, another demand. It was an email. Catherine Lang. Subject, confidential. Ms. Voss, I represent Meridian Global Holdings in the Voss Technologies acquisition. During due diligence, we have identified an irregularity in the intellectual property chain of title that your family has not adequately addressed. I would like to meet with you personally to discuss a matter of significant interest. This communication is confidential and is not being shared with Voss Technologies management. Catherine Lang. I stared at the email. The kids chased pigeons. The sky was the flat gray of a Boston Monday in October. My family had spent months planning how to erase me. The papers, the revoked access, my father in the parking garage. They'd forgotten one thing: the people buying the company were doing their homework. I typed a reply. Ms. Lang, I'm available tomorrow. Name the place. I hit send, then I called Nora. Nora answered on the first ring. You got my text about Catherine Lang? I just got her email, I said. She wants to meet tomorrow. Good, don't go alone. I'll come with you. But first, we send the letter. Today. The letter was a cease and desist and patent rights assertion in Nora's crisp, unforgiving prose. It went to Harold, Marcus, Voss Technologies General Counsel, and the Meridian Deal team. It stated that Elena Marie Voss was the sole inventor and record owner of United States patent number 9,847,214, that any attempt to transfer or sell it without her consent meant litigation, and that all parties were hereby on notice. I read it twice before Nora sent it. My hands were shaking the second time. Relax, Nora said. This is what lawyers are for. You've spent 8 years being the reasonable one. Today you stop being reasonable and start being correct. She was right. But knowing it and feeling it were two different things. And by noon I was sitting in my apartment staring at my phone like it might bite me. It bit at 12:30. Marcus. His name lit up the screen, and I almost didn't answer. Then I thought, let him yell. Let him show me who he really is. What the hell is wrong with you, he said. His voice was tight, the way it got when he was angry and trying not to scream in public. A cease and desist? To your own family? I sent a letter asserting my legal rights. Your legal rights? You're going to destroy an $80 billion deal over a patent you filed in college? Over something that wouldn't be worth the paper without this company. Then why are you so afraid of it, Marcus? Silence. Then, quieter, Dad says you're done. If you don't withdraw that letter by end of business, he'll make sure you never work in this industry again. He'll call every contact he has. Let him call, I said. And I hung up. My hands were still shaking, but they were shaking from something that wasn't fear. It was closer to relief. The relief didn't last. At 4 o'clock, my mother knocked on my door. I knew it was her before I looked through the peephole. She knocked 3 times, rapid, the way she did when she was about to ask for something and didn't want to give you time to prepare. I opened the door. She was standing there in a cashmere sweater and pearl earrings, her face red like she'd been crying in the car. She pushed past me into the apartment without being invited, the way she'd done my entire life. Elena Marie, she said, and her voice cracked on my name. What are you doing to us? I closed the door. I'm not doing anything to you, Mom. I'm asserting my rights. Your rights. She sat down on my couch and put her face in her hands. Your father hasn't slept in 3 nights. His blood pressure is through the roof. The doctor says he's at risk for a stroke, and you're sending lawyers letters. That's not my fault, I said, but my voice wavered, and she heard it. She looked up, tears on her cheeks, and reached for my hand. Sweetheart, I know you feel overlooked. I know you think we don't appreciate you. But this lawsuit, this public fight, it's going to destroy this family. It's going to destroy your father. And for what? For money? You'll be taken care of. Marcus has already said. I don't want Marcus to take care of me, I said. I pulled my hand away. I want what's mine. I want my name on my work. I want to not be disappeared. Your father built this company, she said, and her voice hardened, the tears drying up like they'd never been there. He gave you everything. A lab, a salary, a home. And this is how you repay him? By trying to ruin him. Something in me snapped. I spent 8 years in that basement, I said. My voice was louder than I'd intended, and my mother flinched. 8 years. I spent Christmas there. My birthday there. I missed 3 of your Thanksgiving dinners because a test cycle was running and nobody else could monitor it. And not once did you ever come down and ask me how I was. You just kept telling me how proud you were of Marcus. She stared at me. I'm not signing those papers, I said. I'm not withdrawing the letter. And if Dad has a stroke, that's on him for choosing $80 billion over his daughter. Not on me. She stood up. She didn't say anything. She walked to the door, opened it, and looked back at me. I don't know who you are anymore, she said, then she left. I stood in the middle of my apartment and listened to her heels click down the hallway, and then the elevator ding, and then silence. I didn't cry. I think I'd been expecting to, but the tears wouldn't come. What came instead was a cold, clear feeling, like water washing away something that had been stuck to me for years. My phone buzzed. Nora. Check your email, she said. I opened my laptop. There was a forwarded message, originally from Catherine Lang at Meridian Global Holdings, addressed to Harold Voss and the Voss Technologies board, the subject line, Acquisition Update. The body was 3 sentences. Meridian had reviewed the patent rights assertion from Elena Voss's counsel. Pending resolution of the intellectual property ownership question, all acquisition activity was suspended indefinitely. The deal team would be in touch when the matter was clarified. I read it 3 times, then I called Nora back. They paused it, I said. I know, Nora said. I just got off the phone with their counsel. They're not playing games, Elena. They want a clean asset. And if your family can't deliver one, they'll find another way. Another way, I said. Tomorrow's meeting with Catherine Lang just got a lot more interesting, Nora said. Get some sleep. You're going to need it. I closed my laptop. I sat on the couch where my mother had been crying an hour earlier. I thought about Harold, somewhere in his office, probably throwing something. About Marcus, on the phone with their lawyer, screaming. About my mother, driving home, telling herself I was the villain, and I thought about the patent certificate. In the manila folder in my desk drawer, with my name on it. I was the villain now. Fine, but I was the villain who owned the patent. The meeting with Catherine Lang lasted 2 hours and changed everything. She was waiting for us at a private table near South Station. A woman in her late 40s with silver-streaked hair and the kind of calm that made you want to tell her the truth before she asked. Meridian doesn't care about your family drama, she said. We care about the asset. If you're the legitimate patent holder, any deal that doesn't include you is built on sand. And I don't build on sand. She laid out a framework. Meridian would recognize Elena's patent as a separately valued asset. She'd be compensated, retain inventor credit, grant an exclusive license, and drop litigation. One thing before we go further, she said. Are you looking for justice, Ms. Voss, or revenge? I thought about Marcus in the coffee shop, my mother's tears, my father in the parking garage. I'm looking for what's mine, I said. Catherine nodded. Good. Justice is expensive and revenge is bankrupting. People who want what's theirs usually get it, if they're patient. She left. Nora looked at me. She's good. She's terrifying, I said. Same thing. I thought the worst was over. I was wrong. The hard part started 2 days later, when the article came out. It was on a tech news site, the kind that runs anonymously sourced hit pieces when someone pays enough. The headline, Voss Technologies heir accused of sabotaging $80 billion Meridian deal in family feud. The article painted me as a disgruntled younger sister passed over for CEO, using a patent technicality to hold the company hostage. It quoted a source close to the family, saying I'd always had trouble accepting. Marcus was the one with business acumen. It didn't mention I'd invented the technology. I read it at 7 in the morning and felt the blood drain from my face. Nora called before I finished the second paragraph. Don't comment. Don't post anything. One statement through counsel, that's it. But they're lying. I know. But the court of public opinion isn't the court that matters. Let them have their narrative. We'll have ours when it counts. She was right. But knowing it didn't make the comments easier. Gold digger. Entitled brat. Family backstabber. She should be grateful her brother gave her a job. I closed my laptop and went for a walk. I ended up at the common, on the same bench, watching the same pigeons, thinking how quickly the world decides you're the villain when someone with a better PR team tells them you are. My phone buzzed. An old college friend. Just saw the article. Is everything okay? Then another. Have you considered just settling? Fighting your whole family seems exhausting. Then another. I'm sure Marcus didn't mean for it to get this public. Maybe you two should talk. I put my phone away. That afternoon, I got an email from David Reyes. David was the CTO at Voss Technologies. He'd supervised my lab for 5 years. He knew exactly who'd built the core technology. Elena, I know things are messy. I want to explain. Can we meet? Not at the office. Somewhere neutral. David, I stared at it. I thought about his mortgage in Newton, his 2 kids, his career. I almost didn't reply. Then I thought, let him explain. Tomorrow, noon. Boston Public Library, the reading room. Don't be late. He replied within a minute. I'll be there. That night, Nora called. Harold was building a work-for-hire case. He'd argue I'd developed the technology as part of my employment, that the company owned it regardless of whose name was on the filing. And he's lining up witnesses, Nora said. Who? David Reyes is on the list. He's being deposed next week. Harold's team will ask him whether the core technology was developed on company time, with company resources, under company supervision. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. And what's he going to say? I don't know. But if he says it was company work, that muddies the water. And Harold loves muddy water. I hung up and stared at the wall. David, the guy who'd brought me coffee during late-night test cycles. The guy who knew, who'd always known, the technology was mine, and now he was going to say it wasn't. The next day, I went to the library anyway. I wanted to see his face when he lied to me. He was already there, sitting at a table in the back, a leather folder in front of him. He looked tired, dark circles, wrinkled shirt, like he'd slept in it. He stood when he saw me. Elena. Thanks for coming. I didn't sit. I hear you're testifying for my father. He flinched. I'm being deposed. That's not the same thing. Then what are you going to say? He looked around the reading room and lowered his voice. Can we talk outside? We walked into the courtyard. It was cold, the kind that made your lungs hurt. David zipped his jacket to his chin. Harold called me into his office last week, he said. Told me the company was arguing work for hire. Said if I cooperated, my job was safe. If I didn't, I'd be fired, and he'd make sure I never worked in Boston Tech again. So you're going to cooperate, I said. I have 2 kids in private school. A mortgage. My wife hasn't worked in 6 years. I can't. I'm not asking you to lose your job. I'm asking you to tell the truth. The truth is complicated, he said. The truth is I built that technology in my apartment before I was ever employed by this company. The truth is you watched me do it. The truth is the patent has my name on it because it's mine. He looked at his shoes. I thought you were better than this, I said, and I walked away. I didn't look back. If I had, I would have seen him standing in the courtyard, face in his hands, and I might have felt something I didn't have room for right then. I got home and there was a package on my doorstep. No return address. I opened it. Inside. It was a USB drive. A note was taped to it, in handwriting I recognized. David's. I'm sorry. These are emails from Harold and Marcus. From 8 months ago. They planned this before the Meridian offer even came in. You need to see them. I stared at the USB drive in my hand. The courtyard. David's face. The mortgage, the kids, the private school. I plugged it into my laptop. The USB drive contained 47 emails, spanning 8 months. I read them all in one sitting, from 9 at night to 2 in the morning. By the last one, my hands were numb and my apartment was dark except for the laptop glow. The earliest was from Harold to Marcus 8 months ago. Subject, the Elena problem. Marcus, we need to talk about the patent. Meridian's preliminary interest is serious, and they'll do full IP due diligence. The fact that the core patent is in Elena's name is a liability. She's been cooperative up to now, but I don't trust her to stay that way when she realizes what the technology is worth. We need a plan to bring the patent into the company before any deal is signed. Don't mention this to her yet. Dad, the Elena problem. That's what they called me. Not my name. Not our daughter, or your sister. The Elena problem. The rest was worse. Marcus suggesting a promotion with a patent assignment clause. Harold agreeing, make it generous enough she can't say no. But not so generous it sets a precedent. Marcus suggesting timing it after the holidays, when she's feeling sentimental about family. One from Marcus 3 weeks before the offer went public. She's been asking questions about the patent. I think she suspects something. We should move up the timeline. Get the papers in front of her before she talks to a lawyer. I closed my laptop and sat in the dark. I thought about all the Sunday dinners in those 8 months, where Marcus had been unusually nice, where my father had asked about my work in a way that felt like attention then and felt like reconnaissance now. They'd been planning this. Not reacting to my refusal. Planning. For 8 months. I called Nora at 7. She answered like she'd been awake for hours. They planned it, I said. 8 months. They called it the Elena problem. Send me everything, she said. All of it. Don't edit, don't summarize. At her office, she read through the emails while I drank coffee that tasted like cardboard. When she finished, she leaned back. This changes things. This isn't just a patent dispute. This is evidence of a premeditated scheme to defraud you of your intellectual property. The emails are admissible. They show intent. They show conspiracy. If your father and brother knew the patent was yours and conspired to take it anyway, that's not just civil. It could be criminal. I felt something shift. Not relief. Not satisfaction. Something heavier. I don't want to send them to prison, I said. I know. But you need to understand the leverage. These emails expose your family to significant legal risk. That changes the negotiation dynamics considerably. That night, I ran into Marcus. It wasn't planned. I was at a hotel bar in Back Bay, waiting for Nora to finish a meeting, and he walked in with 2 men in suits. He saw me immediately. His face did something complicated, surprise, anger, then the calculated charm he used when he wanted something. He said something to the men, and they moved to the other end of the bar. Marcus sat down next to me. Elena, fancy meeting you here. I'm here with my lawyer, I said. Of course you are. He ordered a scotch. You know, I've been thinking about what you said at the coffee shop. About being disappeared. Have you? I don't think you understand the pressure I'm under. $80 billion, Elena. That's legacy. That's every Voss for 3 generations. And you're going to throw it all away because you want your name on a piece of paper? I want my name on the thing I built. You built it with company resources. I built it in my apartment before there was a company. He laughed, but it wasn't real. It was the sound he made when he was losing an argument and knew it. You know what your problem is? You've always been so busy being the smart one you never learned to be the grateful one. Dad gave you everything. I gave you everything. And this is how you repay us. I didn't ask for any of this. You decided I was a problem 8 months ago. You decided to take what was mine. I didn't start this, Marcus. You did. He went very still. What do you know about 8 months ago? I looked at him. I thought about the emails. The Elena problem. The Sunday dinners. I know everything, I said. His face went white. Who told you? It doesn't matter who told me. What matters is I have proof. And what matters is you and Dad spent 8 months planning how to steal from me, and now you're going to live with the consequences. I walked away. I didn't look back. But I heard his chair scrape the floor, and I heard him curse at the bartender, and I felt the phone in my pocket that had recorded every word. Nora met me at the door. How did it go? I held up my phone. I got him on tape. She smiled. It was not a nice smile. 2 days later, the settlement offer arrived. $50 million in cash. A seat on the advisory board. A consulting role paying $200,000 a year for 5 years. In exchange, full patent assignment, non-disparagement, general release of all claims. Nora laid the offer on her desk. $50 million for an $80 billion asset. They're scared, Elena. The emails. The recording. They know if this goes to court, they lose. And they know it gets ugly. Ugly how? Criminal referrals. Your father and brother testifying under oath about conspiracy to defraud you. The Voss name becoming synonymous with theft instead of innovation. I stared at the offer. $50 million. More than I'd ever imagined. Enough to never work again, but it wasn't about the money. It had never been about the money. I'm not taking it, I said. Nora nodded like she'd expected it. Then we file. We seek a preliminary injunction. We make it impossible for them to sell anything until this is resolved. Do it, I said. She picked up the phone. I looked out her window at the Boston skyline. Somewhere in it, my father was sitting in his 14th floor office. Probably staring at the same harbor view I'd stared at the day they'd tried to make me sign that he thought I was a problem to be solved. That he was about to find out I was a problem that couldn't be solved. The week after we filed was the worst week of my life. The tech news site ran a second hit piece, quoting a source close to the Voss family, calling me emotionally unstable and resentful of my brother's success. I'd heard my father use that exact phrase about a business partner who'd sued him 10 years ago. People found my social media. Someone posted a holiday party photo of me laughing, captioned, "The face of someone trying to destroy her own family." My DMs filled with messages I couldn't read. Nora told me to delete the apps. I did. Then my mother texted. One sentence. "You've destroyed this family. I hope you're happy." I typed, "I didn't destroy anything." "You did." I hit send. She didn't text back. David was fired Wednesday. Nora called. Harold terminated him this morning. No severance. Walked out by security. His LinkedIn already says, seeking new opportunities. I felt sick. Because of the USB drive? Because Harold found out he gave it to you. Or thinks he did. Either way, David's career in Boston tech is probably over. Your father doesn't forget. I thought about David in the courtyard, face in his hands, the mortgage and the kids. I'd walked away thinking he was a coward. He wasn't. He was a man who'd made a choice, and it had cost him everything. I need to call him. Don't. Not yet. If Harold finds out you're in contact, he'll use it against both of you. She was right. She was always right. Thursday, the company was falling apart. The preliminary injunction hearing was 2 weeks out, but the market didn't wait. Voss Technologies' valuation dropped 15% in 3 days. Key engineers put out feelers. The CFO resigned. Meridian said the acquisition was under review pending resolution of outstanding IP matters. Marcus called Thursday night. I almost didn't answer. Then I thought, let him talk. What do you want? Stop this, he said. His voice was raw. Just stop. The company is falling apart. People are losing their jobs. Dad is talking about selling off divisions. This is going to destroy everything. You should have thought of that 8 months ago. 8 months ago you were still my sister, he said. And his voice broke. You were still my sister, and you were happy, and everything was fine. Why couldn't you just leave it alone? Why couldn't you just be grateful? I didn't say anything. I listened to him breathe. I can't do this anymore. I can't sleep. I can't eat. Every time I close my eyes I see those emails. I see what we did to you. Then stop. Sign the patent back. Drop the work for hire claim. Let Meridian deal with me directly. It's that simple. It's not that simple. Dad would never. Then let Dad deal with the consequences. You don't have to go down with him. He was quiet a long time. Then he said, I have to go, and hung up. I sat with the phone and thought about what he'd said. I see what we did to you. He knew. He'd always known. And somewhere under the charm and entitlement, he felt guilty. Guilt wasn't enough. But it was something. Friday night, Marcus showed up at my apartment. He was drunk. I could tell before he spoke, the way he leaned against the doorframe, his shirt untucked, eyes glassy. He'd been drinking scotch. I could smell it. Elena, can I come in? I should have said no. I should have closed the door. But I didn't. I stepped aside. He walked into my living room and stood there, looking around like he'd never been in an apartment not paid for by a company expense account. Then he sat on my couch and put his head in his hands. I don't even know how the battery works, he said, muffled. I don't know the chemistry. I don't know the engineering. I just read what you put in front of me. I stand on stages and say words you wrote, and people clap, and I pretend I know what I'm talking about. I stood there and watched him. Every time someone asks me a technical question, I panic. I smile and say, that's a great question, let me connect you with our CTO, and I walk away and my hands are shaking. 5 years of pretending. 5 years of being a fraud. He looked up. His eyes were red. I hate it. But if I stop, if I admit I don't know anything, then what am I? I'm not the CEO. I'm not the golden son. I'm just the guy who read words his little sister wrote. I sat across from him. I didn't comfort him. It wasn't okay. You could have told me. You could have said, Elena, I need help. Instead you decided to take what was mine and pretend it was yours. I know. You decided I was a problem. I know. You decided to erase me. He didn't say anything. He just sat there, drunk and broken, on my couch. After a while, he stood up. I should go. I walked him to the door. He stopped in the hallway. I'm sorry, Elena, for all of it. I didn't say I forgive you. I just said, good night, Marcus. He left. I closed the door. I stood in the dark a long time, listening to his footsteps fade. Then I went to my desk and opened the bottom drawer. I pulled out the manila folder with the patent certificate. I looked at my name. I thought about Marcus on my couch. About my mother's text. About David, fired and blacklisted. About my father, somewhere in his big house. Probably drinking too, probably telling himself he'd done nothing wrong. I thought about the girl I'd been 8 years ago. Walking into her father's office with a prototype and a dream. That girl was gone. She'd been gone a long time, but the patent was still mine. And the name on it was still mine. My phone buzzed. An email. Catherine Lang. Ms. Voss. Meridian is prepared to discuss a deal with you directly. The patent, separate from your family's company. Are you ready to stop reacting and start negotiating? CL. I stared at the email. Then I typed a reply. Yes. Name the time and place. I hit send, and for the first time in weeks, I slept. The meeting with Catherine Lang was in a private suite at the Ritz-Carlton, not at Meridian's offices. She didn't want a paper trail, not yet. Nora came with me. We sat across from Catherine and a Meridian IP lawyer named Richard, who didn't say much but took notes on a legal pad with a fountain pen. Catherine didn't waste time. Meridian wants Voss Technologies. The technology, the customer base, the manufacturing pipeline. What we don't want is a patent dispute that drags on for 5 years and costs millions while the market moves on. She slid a document across the table. Term sheet. Not binding. A starting point. I picked it up. The numbers made my hands shake. Meridian would acquire Voss Technologies for $80 billion, same as the original deal. But Elena Voss's patent would be recognized as a separate, independently valued asset. Meridian would acquire it directly from Elena for $2.5 billion, plus a seat on the new company's advisory board, plus a 5-year consulting agreement at $500,000 a year, plus full inventor credit on all products derived from the technology.in exchange. Elena would grant Meridian an exclusive worldwide license, drop all litigation against Voss Technologies and its officers, and sign a mutual non-disparagement agreement. $2.5 billion, I said. My voice sounded distant. The patent is the core asset, Catherine said. Without it, Voss Technologies is a manufacturing company with a nice brand and a lot of debt. With it, it's the most promising energy storage company in the world. The valuation reflects that. I looked at Nora. She was reading the term sheet with the focused intensity of a bomb disposal technician. Conditions, Nora said. Of course, Catherine said. Harold and Marcus have to cooperate. Drop the work for hire claim. Sign off on the patent transfer. If they refuse, we're back to square one. And if they refuse? I said. Catherine smiled. It was not warm. Then Meridian walks away from the Voss Technologies acquisition entirely. We acquire your patent directly. Voss Technologies gets nothing. No deal. No $80 billion. Just a company with a declining valuation and a patent they can't use without infringing. The room went quiet. Richard's fountain pen stopped. You'd walk away from $80 billion. We'd walk away from a bad deal. $80 billion for a company that doesn't own its core technology is a bad deal. $2.5 billion for the patent, plus whatever we pick up from Voss's remains in a fire sale, is a good deal. I'm in the business of good deals. I sat back. I thought about my father, in his 14th floor office, staring at the harbor, telling himself he was in control. About Marcus, reading words I'd written on stages, pretending he knew what he was talking about. They thought they had all the power. They thought I was a problem to be solved. They thought Meridian was their exit. They were wrong about all of it. When do we present this to them? We don't, Catherine said. You do. Through your counsel. Meridian's position is that we've reviewed the IP situation and we're not comfortable with the original deal structure. We're open to restructuring, but terms need to be acceptable to all parties, including the patent holder. And if they say no, then Meridian withdraws the offer, and then we call you. I looked at Nora. She nodded slowly. It's clean, Nora said. It's legal. It gives them an out if they want it. And if they don't, it gives us everything. Everything that's yours, Nora added. I signed the term sheet. Not the final agreement, the starting point. But signing it felt like crossing a line. It felt like saying, I'm not just defending myself. I'm negotiating. I'm playing the game. And I'm going to win. We left at noon. Nora drove us back to her office, calling her paralegal on the way with instructions. The term sheet would be formalized. The offer communicated to Voss's counsel. The preliminary injunction hearing would proceed. We couldn't take the pressure off. One more thing, Nora said, hanging up. Harold filed a countersuit yesterday, claiming the patent was developed with company resources, that you're in breach of your employment agreement, seeking damages and a declaratory judgment that the patent belongs to the company. I expected that. Good, because we're going to demolish it. Your lab notebooks predate your employment. Your personal emails show independent development. I was there when you filed the patent application, I can testify. And David's emails show Harold and Marcus knew the patent was yours and conspired to take it. She looked at me. Their case is a house of cards, Elena. And we're holding the wind. 3 days later, the preliminary injunction was granted. The judge's ruling was 12 pages. But the key sentence was simple. The plaintiff has demonstrated a likelihood of success on the merits, and the balance of equities favors maintaining the status quo. Status quo meant the patent couldn't be transferred, encumbered, or sold. It meant Voss Technologies couldn't include it in any acquisition. It meant the $80 billion deal was frozen, indefinitely. Nora called the minute the ruling came down. We got it. Injunction granted. They can't touch it. I sat down. I felt lightheaded. They can't touch it. And Meridian just sent them formal notice the original deal structure is off the table. They're open to restructuring, but the patent holder has to be at the table. I closed my eyes. I thought about the 14th floor conference room, my father sliding the papers across the table, the pen black and heavy, waiting. I thought about how I hadn't touched it. My phone buzzed. Marcus. I answered. You got an injunction, he said. His voice was shaking. Elena, what the hell are you doing? I thought about being angry. About being cruel. About all the things I'd wanted to say for 8 years. What I should have done 8 years ago, I said, and I hung up. The 2 weeks between the injunction and the deposition were the longest 2 weeks of my life. Nora built the case like an architect. The patent certificate, with my name and a filing date 8 months before my employment. The lab notebooks, digitized and timestamped, showing development in my apartment before there was a company. The personal emails between me and Nora, discussing the patent application before I'd signed an employment contract. The USB drive, with 47 emails showing Harold and Marcus planning to take what was mine. The recording from the hotel bar, where Marcus admitted the core technology was mine. And now David Reyes, who'd agreed to testify. David called me on a Tuesday night, from a burner phone. Nora gave me your number. I'll testify. I'll tell them everything. But I need you to understand something. What? I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it because Harold fired me without severance, after 12 years. My wife is talking about going back to work. My kids are asking why we can't go to Disney World. I have nothing left to lose. I understand. Do you? If Harold had offered me a deal, if he'd let me keep my job, I would have testified for him. I would have said whatever he wanted. I'm not a hero, Elena. I'm a guy who got pushed too far. I know. That's okay. I'm not a hero either. He was quiet. No. I don't think you are. I think you're just the person who finally said enough. He hung up. I sat with the phone and thought about that. The person who finally said enough. That was all I'd ever been. Not a hero. Not a villain. Just someone who'd been pushed too far and finally pushed back. 3 days before the deposition, my mother called. I almost didn't answer. Then I thought, let her talk. Elena Marie, she said. Her voice was soft, the way it got when she wanted something. I was thinking, maybe we should get coffee. Just the two of us. Talk things through. Talk things through about what? All of this. The lawsuit. The company. Your father and Marcus. I think maybe we can find a way to resolve this without it going any further. Without anyone getting hurt. I thought about the last time we'd talked, in my apartment, when she told me I was destroying the family. About her text. You've destroyed this family. I hope you're happy, Mom. The deposition is in 3 days. Is that why you're calling? She was quiet. I just think we should talk. As mother and daughter. Are you calling because you miss me, or because Harold told you to call? The silence stretched. I could hear her breathing. Your father is under a lot of pressure. The company is suffering. People are losing their jobs. Marcus isn't sleeping. I just thought, maybe if we talked, woman to woman, we could find a way to make this easier for everyone. Easier for everyone except me. Elena, Mom. I'm not dropping the case. I'm not signing the patent over. I'm not going away. If you want coffee, we can get coffee. But not to talk me out of this. Because that's not going to happen. She was quiet a long time. Then she said, I don't know who you are anymore, and hung up. It was the same thing she'd said in my apartment. The same line. I wondered if it was the only thing she knew how to say when she couldn't control the outcome. The night before the deposition, Nora came to my apartment. She brought takeout Thai food and a bottle of wine, and we sat on my couch and went over the strategy one more time. Here's what's going to happen, Nora said, with her mouth full of pad Thai. Marcus goes first. Their lawyer will ask him about the patent, about the technology, about the company. He'll lie. He'll say the patent was company property, that you developed it as part of your employment, that you've always known it belonged to Voss Technologies. And then I get up. And I ask him about the emails. The Elena problem emails. The ones where he and your father planned to take the patent. And I ask him about the recording. The one from the hotel bar, where he said the core technology was yours. And I watch him fall apart. And my father? Harold goes second. He'll be harder. He's been doing this his whole life. He'll stay calm. He'll say you're a disgruntled employee. He'll say the patent was always intended to be company property, that you filing it in your name was an oversight. He'll be convincing. But the emails will destroy him. And David's testimony will destroy him. She took a sip of wine. And then you go third. You tell the truth. You tell them about the apartment, the prototype, walking into your father's office. You tell them about 8 years in the basement. You tell them about the day they tried to make you sign. And you let the truth do the work. What if it doesn't work? I said. Nora looked at me. It's going to work. The evidence is overwhelming. The judge already granted the injunction. The only question is how messy it gets before they fold. And if they don't fold, then we go to trial. And we win. And they lose everything. The company, the deal, their reputations. All of it. I thought about that. All of it. My father's legacy. Marcus's career. The Voss name. All of it, gone, because they decided I was a problem to be solved instead of a person to be respected. I don't want to destroy them, I said. I know, Nora said. That's why you're going to offer them a way out. The Meridian term sheet. They can take it, and everyone walks away with something. Or they can refuse it, and they walk away with nothing. That's their choice, not yours. She was right. She was always right. After she left, I sat at my desk and opened the bottom drawer. I pulled out the manila folder with the patent certificate. I looked at my name one more time. Tomorrow, everything would change. One way or another. I put the folder back. I closed the drawer. I went to bed. I didn't sleep much. But I slept enough. The deposition was in a conference room on the 23rd floor downtown. The kind that smelled like new carpet and old money. The same smell as the 14th floor of Voss Technologies. Marcus went first. He sat in a tailored suit, hair perfect, smile rehearsed. He looked like the CEO he pretended to be. Their lawyer asked about the company, the technology, the patent. He answered smoothly. The patent was developed as part of company operations. It was always intended to be company property. Elena had filed it in her name as an administrative oversight. She'd been compensated fairly. She was acting out of resentment. I sat and listened to him lie, and I didn't feel angry. I felt tired. Then Nora got up. She placed a stack of documents on the table in front of Marcus. 47 emails, printed and bound, subject lines highlighted in yellow. Mr. Voss, are these emails authentic? Marcus looked at them. His face went pale. Yes. The first is from your father to you, 8 months ago. Subject, the Elena problem. He writes, the fact that the core patent is in Elena's name is a liability. We need a plan to bring the patent into the company before any deal is signed. Correct? Marcus said nothing. Mr. Voss? Yes, he said. His voice was small. And your reply, make it generous enough she can't say no, but not so generous it sets a precedent. Time it after the holidays, when she's feeling sentimental about family. Correct? Yes. So 8 months ago, you and your father were planning to take the patent from your sister. Planning to manipulate her into signing it over. Planning to use her sentimentality against her. Is that accurate? Marcus looked at his lawyer. His lawyer said nothing. Yes. Nora placed a phone on the table and pressed play. The hotel bar recording filled the room. Marcus's voice, loud and clear, saying the core technology was Elena's, saying family doesn't keep score, saying she should be grateful. It ran for 2 minutes. When it ended, the room was silent. Mr. Voss, is that your voice? Marcus put his head in his hands. Yes. And in this recording, you admit the core technology was developed by your sister, independently, before the company existed. Correct? Yes. The room was so quiet I could hear the air conditioning. Nora sat down. She didn't need to say anything else. Harold went next. He was calmer. Sat up straight. Looked Nora in the eye. Called her, counselor. Said the emails were taken out of context. Said the patent was always intended to be company property. Said Elena was a disgruntled employee using a technicality to extort the family. He was convincing. He'd been convincing his entire life. Then David testified. He walked in looking like he hadn't slept in weeks. Suit off the rack, hands shaking. But when he sat down and raised his right hand and swore to tell the truth, his voice was steady. He told them about the lab. About Elena working 14-hour days. About the prototype she'd brought in, already working, before she was ever employed. About Harold asking him, 6 years ago, to find a way to bring the patent into the company. About Marcus telling him, 8 months ago, to make sure Elena's employment contract is airtight on the IP side. About Harold firing him 2 weeks ago. Harold's lawyer tried to discredit him. Disgruntled former employee. Axe to grind. David didn't flinch. I'm not here because I like Elena Voss. I'm here because I spent 12 years watching a company steal from its own inventor, and I went along with it because I was afraid. And I'm tired of being afraid. Even Harold was quiet. Then it was my turn. I sat down, raised my right hand, swore to tell the truth, and I told them everything about the apartment, the prototype, walking into my father's office with a garbage bag full of circuit boards and a dream. About 8 years in the basement. The Christmas I missed. The nights I slept on the couch. About the day in the 14th floor conference room, when my father slid the papers across the table and told me to sign. About the pen, black and heavy, waiting. About how I hadn't touched it. I didn't cry. I didn't raise my voice. I just told the truth. And when I finished, the room was quiet, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. I felt light. The deposition ended at 4. We walked out into the hallway. Nora was on the phone before we reached the elevator. They're done, she said, hanging up. Harold's lawyer just called. They want to settle. They'll accept the Meridian term sheet. All of it. $2.5 billion, advisory board seat, consulting agreement, inventor credit. Everything. I stopped walking. Just like that. Just like that. They saw the writing on the wall. The emails, the recording, David's testimony. They knew if this went to trial, they'd lose everything. And they knew Meridian would walk. So they're folding. I leaned against the wall. I thought about the conference room. My father's face. Marcus's smile. The pen. Elena, Nora said. We won. I nodded. I didn't know what to say. The elevator arrived. We got in. The doors closed. Halfway to the lobby, the doors opened. Marcus was standing there. He looked terrible. Suit wrinkled. Eyes red. He'd been crying, or drinking, or both. He looked at me. I looked at him. Can we talk? He said. Nora looked at me. I nodded. I'll meet you downstairs. Nora got off. The doors closed. Marcus and I stood alone in the quiet hum of the elevator car. I never hated you, he said. His voice was raw. I want you to know that. I never hated you. I didn't say anything. I just never figured out how to be your brother and your boss at the same time. And then it was too late. And then I was in too deep. And then I couldn't stop. The elevator reached the lobby. The doors opened. We stepped out into the marble-floored hall. I'm sorry, Elena, for all of it, for the emails, for the papers, for every time I stood on a stage and took credit for your work. I'm sorry. I looked at him. I thought about everything. The basement, the prototype, the 8 years, the conference room, the pen. I know, I said, and I walked away. 3 months later, I walked into a laboratory and it smelled like solder and ozone and electrolyte solution, and I thought, I'm home. IT wasn't the basement lab at Voss Technologies. That lab was gone, stripped and renovated, the equipment moved to Meridian's facilities in Cambridge. This was a new lab, smaller, brighter, on the 3rd floor of a converted warehouse in Somerville. The windows looked out over a parking lot and a train track and, in the distance, the Boston skyline. It wasn't a harbor view, but it was mine. I'd bought it with the first installment of the Meridian payment. $2.5 billion, wired to an account with my name on it. The number was so large I couldn't really understand it. I'd stared at the bank statement for 10 minutes the first time it arrived, then closed it and made toast. Because the number didn't change anything about being hungry, the deal had closed 6 weeks after the deposition. Voss Technologies was now a subsidiary of Meridian. Marcus was still CEO, but his power was diluted. He reported to a Meridian board, had a budget, had oversight. For the first time in his life, he was accountable. Harold had retired. The truth was closer to forced out with a golden parachute. He kept his house in Weston, his country club, his boat. But he didn't have a company anymore. He didn't have a legacy. He had a portfolio and a lot of time to think. My mother called once a week. She never mentioned the lawsuit or the patent. She talked about her book club, her garden, the neighbor's dog. She asked if I was eating. She never said she was sorry. But she called, and that was something. David was my first hire. He'd shown up at my door a month after the deal closed, holding a cardboard box. I hear you're starting a lab. I hear you need a CTO. You sure? After everything? After everything, I'm sure. I spent 12 years watching someone else take credit for work that wasn't theirs. I'd like to spend the next 12 watching someone take credit for work that is. I hired him. We worked well together. Better than at Voss, because here there was no Harold, no Marcus, no hidden agenda. Just the work. Nora was our outside counsel. She'd taken a percentage of the settlement and was now very wealthy. She still worked. She came to the lab once a week, brought lunch, told me when I was being an idiot. We were friends. Better friends than ever, because now there was nothing between us but the truth. The lab was called Voss Labs. I'd thought about changing the name. But why should I change my name? The Voss name had been tarnished by my father and brother, but it was mine too. And I was going to make it mean something different. The first project was a new battery chemistry. Not the one from the patent, that belonged to Meridian now. This was something new, something I'd been thinking about for years during the long nights in the basement. Something better, something smaller, something that could power a house for a week on a charge the size of a shoebox. We were 3 months in. The prototypes were working. David thought we could have a working prototype by year's end. I thought he was being optimistic, but I liked his optimism. It was a Tuesday in October when I filled out the patent application. I sat at my desk in the lab, the same kind of desk I'd had in the basement, with a coffee mug that said, "World's Okayest Boss," a gift from David, and a stack of lab notebooks and a laptop open to the USPTO website. I filled out the form. Inventor, Elena Marie Voss. Filing date, October 14th. Title, High-Density Solid-State Energy Storage System with Modular Thermal Management. I stared at the inventor line. My name. Just my name. No company. No father. No brother. Just me. I thought about the first patent. The one I'd filed in my apartment, 8 years ago, before there was a company, before there was a deal, before there was a lawsuit. I thought about walking into my father's office with a garbage bag full of circuit boards. I thought about the basement. I thought about the 14th floor conference room. I thought about the pen, black and heavy, waiting. I thought about how I hadn't touched it. I thought about the girl I'd been 8 years ago, and the woman I was now, and the distance between them. The distance wasn't money. It wasn't a lab. It wasn't even a patent. The distance was knowing my own worth. The distance was not being afraid to say no. The distance was understanding that family wasn't about blood. It was about respect. And if there was no respect, there was no family. I hit submit. The screen changed. Confirmation. Application received. Patent pending. I closed the laptop and stood up. I walked out into the main lab. David was at his station, soldering. He looked up. Done? Done. Good. Because I think I just solved the thermal management problem. Come look. I walked over. He showed me the prototype. It was small. It was elegant. It was going to work. I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Not relief. Not satisfaction. Something better. Something like possibility. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out. A text. Marcus. Mom wants to know if you're coming for Thanksgiving. I stared at it. I thought about the last family Thanksgiving. I'd spent it in the lab, monitoring a test cycle. Marcus had been in Aspen. My father had been at the country club. My mother had been at home, alone, setting a table for 4 people who wouldn't show up. I typed a reply. I'll think about it. I hit send. I put the phone back in my pocket. I turned back to David and the prototype in the small, bright, possible future in front of me, and here, in a converted warehouse in Somerville, I was standing in a lab that was mine, working on a patent that was mine, building a future that was mine. The door to family wasn't closed. But it wasn't open either. It was ajar, and I was the one holding the handle, and I would decide when, and if, to walk through. For now, I had work to do, and for the first time in my life, that was enough.